Welcome back, everyone. I have such an exciting video for you today. I've just released my 9th HO scale kit. It's a waterfront structure and it's a tattoo shop. It's called Sea Dog Tattoos. Now, this shop has been sitting on the waterfront for years. It has tattooed many sailors. It's just been around forever. All right, well, in today's video, I'm going to show you how to build it. The kit is available on my website at jasonjensentrains.com. And if you are a Patreon, you will receive a discount. And the discount code can be found on my Patreon page at patreon.com/JasonJensenTrains. All right, well, let's get to it. Here are all the walls. So to get started, we want to cut these all out. And sometimes it's easier to see where the tabs are from the backside. I'm going to leave the small ones in the center and actually stain them while they're in here so that it may help with the warping. Okay, again, we'll leave the small ones in the center. So I'm just adding a little bit of texture with a wire brush. Make sure you always go the same direction as the clapboard. Oh, and don't forget to also... Actually, you could add your texture before you cut your pieces out. It's actually a lot easier. Now we'll add some nail holes using a pounce wheel. And I'll put a link in the description below the video so that you can get these. Now we're going to add some bracing to the back of the walls, and it is the wood in the kit that is marked with red on the end. Well, I have 4 of them that are the same length. So we'll put 1 on each end. And we'll put 1 in the middle. And let's see. Let's do... We'll cut 4 more. Okay, and then we'll cut some bracing for these. I decided to cut out these 2 small walls so I could brace them. So the only walls left in here are the really small ones. And we'll stain them while they're still in here. Okay, let's flip these over. And I think I'm going to just lift a couple of the boards. Now that all of your window frames are on and you've painted blue on the inside, what you can do is go back to your iced coffee, and you can take a sponge. I'm just picking at mine to make it an odd shape so it's not so smooth. Little bit, just a little bit. Maybe towards the bottom, more of the paint's going to be chipping off. I've been doing a little bit of work on the front wall. I installed the windows and the doors, and then put in some signs. Next, there's shutters that get put on both sides of the window. And they are right here. These two big ones. The window frame, when it was in here, there's a piece in the center. Those go on the shutters. And I will show you. Now they're small and very thin, so I recommend tweezers. We'll put a little bit of glue on our palette. You can put it on anything, a little piece of cardboard, a paper towel. Just give yourself a little bit of glue, and after you've cut out one of the thin strips, lightly dab it in the glue. I'm just wiping off the excess glue. Okay, now I'll do the second one. After I get this glued on, I'll show you up close what this looks like. You really don't need much glue, just a little bit on each end. And then if you do have some extra glue, just take a paintbrush and wipe it off. Now these are going to look best if they are straight, in my opinion. And then that gets glued right on the window frame on both sides. Okay, so a little trick, when you cut out these little round windows, cut a rectangle and put a little bit of glue on the back of that window frame, stick it to the rectangle, and then glue the rectangle to the back. And I tried to outline it. I mean, sorry, there's some glue on it, but hopefully you get the idea. So the rectangle is the acetate. Okay, I think we're ready to put these walls together and get our corner trim put on. I started gluing my walls together and realized that I did not put the shutters on these small ones. So let's do that quick. So we have the two windows, one on the side, one on the back. And so then we have 4 shutters. And then on those, we have to put those little pieces that go across them. So, magic. Now there's 2. Let me explain. So, I was building this one, and I went on vacation for a week. When I came back, I looked at it, and it just looked too short. The shutters looked too short. I wasn't happy with it. So I redrew it in the computer. Actually just added, I think I added an 1/8 to the top here. I added an 1/8 to the top of the walls. I didn't want to add it to the bottom because the door was already placed. I liked the height of the windows, so I went around and added an 1/8 to the top of everything. And came up with this. Looks much better. I also added, I think, a 1/16 to the shutters. So hopefully you can see the difference. Now, I made a small mistake. Because I added an 1/8 to the top of everything, for some reason, on these 3 walls that make up this little pop out, I added an 1/8 to the bottom, which put the roof too tall, and it actually came up into that window. So you have to cut an 1/8 off the bottom of these 3 walls. You can cut off more if you want. You just have to make room for the window. Okay, that was quite the project. It didn't take me too long to build a second one, so now we'll just continue working on this new model. I'll show you the windows again for where to put all the signs. I don't know if I showed it before. It's been an entire week for me. Okay, let's move on to the rooftop. Next, we need to paint the underside of the roof cards blue. Next, we're going to paint the top of the roof cards copper color. This may take a couple coats. It's kind of thin because it's I'm using this paint from Ammo, which is it's thin enough to use in an airbrush. So I'll give it 2 or 3 coats. Okay, now that our roof is glued on, we're going to add a little bit of a patina to it. First, I'm using Hauser medium green and desert turquoise. And I'm kind of mixing it 50-50. Okay, now we're going to take Sea Breeze. Now we'll take some burnt sienna and do some streaking down the roof. Now we'll take bittersweet chocolate and do the same. We'll mix a little burnt sienna with it. I'm just sponging on some bittersweet chocolate along the top. Okay, there's some thin strips that get put on here, and they'll get painted to look like copper too. But let's set this aside for now, and let's work on the pier that this sits on. Okay, here is the deck that the structure will sit on. Now, the top of it has scribed lines. The bottom shows you where these thin boards get glued and where your posts will get glued. So the first thing we're going to do is rough this up a little bit. Not too much, just a little bit. And I'm just dragging my blade across it. Then put it on the edge of your workbench. Now flip it over with your lines up, and we're carving a little bit off of the edge. Now if you're not comfortable with that, just take a file and what we're doing is we're filing it down to make the boards look thinner, because it's actually maybe a 32nd. It's kind of thick, so to make it look more to scale, we're thinning it. So we'll also do the side. I've done this to all of my piers on my layout. That's why the wood doesn't look that thick. It actually looks more like individual boards that are this thin. Okay, let's go ahead and stain all of this. Again, we're going to use murky brown. Now there's no bracing on this, so you're just going to want to put a thin layer on it. And then do the bottom too. Put a paper towel down and we'll put a weight on it. I'm using a paper towel because if you put the weight directly on it, you'll actually get that pattern. And you don't want that pattern on there. Okay. Now let's take all of our strip wood that goes underneath and we'll just dip it in here. Make sure they're all separated so they don't stick together. Oh, we should stain our pilings too. Now with all of your wood pilings, if you want to, you could take some rough sandpaper. This is 150 grit. And rough these up a little bit. You could do individual ones if you want. And you don't have to do all of them. Now these have, I don't know if they have a coating, but they seem to be a smoother surface than the strip wood. So it may take a couple times to stain these. You'll have to dip them in here, let it dry, and then stain them again. Okay, I've cut 10 pieces at 1 5/8. I'm just going to glue these all in. And turn them to make sure that they're all straight. They don't have to be perfect, but You want them close. So you notice I constantly keep turning it to make sure that it looks good from all angles. Now, very important, notice that I haven't cut any of the other posts. These are the only ones that get cut to that length. So first, determine the height that you want this to sit at, and then cut 10 posts the same exact length. Now we can cut these, and these can be all different heights, or you can cut them tall and put rope as a railing. It's really up to you. Now once you have it cut, you can see it's a little bit taller. You want to round the top of it very gently. And then we'll mark with a pencil where we have to put the glue. Now I'm using my grid as a guide. Now decide which side is going to be your front. I think this will be my front. It'll sit like this. Now we want to cut small ones that get glued in the front. And we'll do a variety of sizes. Okay, next we're going to add trim to the structure, and we're using the strip wood marked with blue on the end. So the first thing we're going to do is stain it. Then we'll sponge on our blue color, and we're going to use desert turquoise. We'll take our sponge, now on this, I want to point this out. I cut a little slit out of this, and I'll show you there's a sign that goes on top here, and there's a piece that fits in there. I would say it's about a 1/16 of an inch wide, and it goes back to the wood wall. Now I'm going to leave a little gap with the trim, and I'll show you. I'll show you that gap that I left. And very quick, let me grab the sign. There's a sign that gets glued on to this, but this is the background, and that fits just like that. So make sure that there's enough room for that sign to slide in there. Okay, our trim is done. The rafter tails are spaced 1/2 inch apart. Okay, let's move on to cutting out our sign. Okay, so here is our sign, and we need to cut it out and glue it to this. Now it's best to use a brand new blade. The trick is to apply very little pressure. Just with a brand new blade and it being so sharp, just drag it along very lightly. And it doesn't have to be perfect. We can touch up any areas that we missed with paint and markers. An X-Acto knife would be much easier than this blade, but that's okay. The little curl in the hair is the hardest part, and if you want to just cut that off, you can paint it black on here. On curved areas, instead of trying to do the entire curve, do it in sections. Make a cut, make a cut, make a cut. So you're making multiple little cuts by just simply changing the angle of the blade. Like I said, an X-Acto knife would probably be a lot easier than this, but unfortunately I don't have a new number 11 blade. You should definitely spend the most time cutting this sign out. Lots of patience. Okay, the sign is cut out. We can take a dark gray. This is cool gray number 6. Has a nice point. Okay, maybe we'll take a tan marker for the rest of it. This is caramel. Okay. You know what? I'm going to spray a gray primer on the back of this so it looks like metal. Okay, the gray primer is on there and it's dry. Now we'll take some burnt sienna and add a little bit of rust. Now you want to be careful not to accidentally break any pieces off of this. Alright, and we'll add a little bit of bittersweet chocolate. Now we'll flip this over and we'll smear glue on the front of it. I suggest lining up the corner first. And then that gets glued in place right there. Now because of the glue, it's warping a little bit. So just kind of bend it. Not too hard, be very careful. Just to straighten it out. And just to give it some strength, I'm going to use some super glue. Make sure it's straight. Now let's go ahead and glue this on here. We'll center it this way, and then we'll put, I think we'll just put 3 boards in the back. And you can mark it with a pencil too, once you get it where you want it. Okay, taking a small break from the structure and going to put a primer on all my detail parts. Now I'm using a brand new blade and I'm very carefully cutting them off of the supports. You want to go very slow. When you get in a hurry, that's when things break. I'll show you up close. So we just have to cut off the supports. And then simply take your blade and drag it over the edge, or the side of it. Be very careful with this one. It's a ship's wheel, and it's fragile. So just go very slow. Okay, I've got the other ones cut off. I'll put a primer on these and then we'll come back and paint them. Okay, I probably shouldn't have put those under there because I forgot that we needed those for our smaller deck that goes in front, just like this. Now you can place it anywhere that you want. I'm going to put mine right there. And then the kit does come with 2 ladders, and both of them are 2 inches tall. And then I just took the leftover pilings and glued them together. And you can put them anywhere. Okay, we are almost done with this. We have detail parts that get glued on. But next, what we're going to do is, there are ribs that get glued on this rooftop. And I've already painted them a copper color. You'll notice there's some short ones on here. The short ones, one gets put on the top there, and then short ones get put on top of this roof. All right, let's cut these out and get them glued on. Okay, the ribs are glued on. And as you can see, I just lined them up with the rafter tails. And then there's one right on top. Now we'll get this glued in front. We'll paint our ladder and get that glued in place. Now the kit does not come with rope, but you can buy this thread to use as rope. And you can see it has a nice texture to it. I hope you can see that. I believe that this thread is used for possibly sewing denim. It's thick. So there's regular thread, and you can see, hopefully you can see the difference in the thickness. So it's just a thicker thread. And like I said, I believe it's for maybe sewing denim. But you can wrap that around your pilings if you want. Okay, I just glued the little deck in the front and glued the ladder on there. I put a little bit of blue on it just to tie in with the rest of the building. Okay, now to the fun part. Lots of details. Well, as you can see, the model is finished. Let me take the camera off and give you a closer look. All right, well, I am thrilled with how this turned out. And again, this kit is available on my website at jasonjensentrains.com. All right, let's take this over to the layout and find a home for it. Well, there it is in its new home. I am so excited about this area. Now, eventually there'll be some land back here and some rocks. We'll have to build some type of bridge right there on the corner. And then we'll just have this will sort of be a dumping ground. There'll be a lot of rusted metal and just scrap back behind there. There's so many possibilities. Maybe we'll put a couple small drain pipes coming out right here with some water coming out of them. Now we'll have to cut the rope back here and put some planks so there's a little bit of a walkway in between there. All right, well, there it is in its new home. This structure has so much character, and there's a lot that can be done with it. You could paint it different colors, give it more of a modern look. You wouldn't have to rust the sign and make it look old. There's just so many possibilities. And again, the kit is available currently on my website at jasonjensentrains.com. And again, if you are one of these people, you will receive a discount on the kit. And the discount code can be found on my Patreon page at patreon.com/jasonjensentrains. All right, well, that's all we have time for today. Thank you all so much for watching. I truly appreciate it. And until next time, stay motivated and happy modeling, everyone.